18 FNCS champions are competing today. A combined 39 FNCS titles between them. And after this weekend, Jacob, we'll have 2 more. This is the EU FNCS Grand Finals.
And already we're starting off hot. A fight I think everybody has had their eyes on since his return. Mongrel and Savage, with Mongrel already down. But Savage is his chance to go big. 35 shields. Well, not a lot being drained off, but shots on multiple members. Savage has one almost going down altogether. That's Nate, but the fight continues. Savage goes down even with a knock. Him and Mongrel have to try again in game 2.
Nate Lane, quick 2 elims off the bat. One of the most anticipated engagements of the day. And it ended so quickly.
Yeah, just an all-out engagement. You got another team on the outskirts too. It's going to be a long road for everybody landing towards the shipment station. Crims, Noms, Lavish Layer going up against Thomas, but a double knock right out of the gates. Queasy versus Noms, 1v1 for the throne of Lavish Layer.
Good news is, for Queasy, he does have a big pot. It's going to give him the upper hand in terms of shield, but Noms now might even be looking to pick up his duo partner. Queasy hasn't started yet on Thomas HD, so Cringe and Noms will be able to get back out as a duo quicker.
It's just about how fast they want to try to go ahead and push in. And right now, they got the green light. They're immediately trying to bull rush in. Queasy outside of the door gets the revive onto Thomas. We will continue this fight, Takata, towards Lavish Layer, but both of these teams have to be careful. The longer this fight takes, the more potential third parties coming in and disrupting the entire thing.
Queasy now forced to look around, find a bit extra loot. Thomas HD on a sliver of HP as Noms and Cringe have healed back up. Now with both players split up opposite sides of the Lavish Layer. Huge med kit found for Thomas HD.
Not just a med kit, look at the materials. I believe he maybe even found some sort of llama or something. Gets the grapple blade, crash pad. A huge find for Queasy and Thomas to kind of start this game off. Now, against Noms and Cridge, they're just completely outmatched in terms of material, in terms of utility. All Thomas and Queasy do is need to give themselves a green light to go ahead and try to fight this, and they're going to be more than enough ready.
Issue is taking engagement here when their opponents have such an elevation advantage on top of the Lavish Layer. When you're going for this drop spot, ideally, you want to drop at the top of the building. Gives you the best position. It gives you the most loot. But once they're put down below now and forced to loot the outskirts, it's almost not even worth it unless they get a big advantage.
Jump on board King Phaser. Another very, very hyped up team. Switching their drop spot up a little bit, and already it's working out. They get that first elimination on the Lunex. You got to imagine clearing the drop spot overall. Pink and Vico waiting until the last moment in the final game on day 2 to qualify for the finals. And what a hard-fought game it was for Pink. Doing it as a solo during the end game, losing Vico, but back on over towards Lavish Layer, Queasy, Thomas. They finally got the upper hand against Noms with a huge knock, leaving Crims on the back foot to try to run away, and they have him surrounded. Even the bot is going to go ahead and take a part in this battle. Queasy's going to finish that one off, and now Lavish Layer is all theirs.
The llama blessing for Thomas HD, recuperating his HP, giving them that confidence to get right back into the action and come out on top with the 2 elims. Let's see how they did it.
Material, they're already fighting the NPC. Noms went down easy, and from there it was just kind of a 2v1. You know how that goes. Lazen, Locks, over towards Ruined Reels. We're already got 2 teams contesting it, a third one moving in. And that's the thing about these finals lobbies. Sometimes you save a lot of the tricks and a lot of what you worked on for moments like this.
Looking back, Resident Vidil. So many of these Titan duos are going for these early game engagements, these battles. We know how difficult Storm Surge is in Grand Finals lobbies. It's as difficult as it gets. So getting that damage early on is crucial for making it to the late game.
Reason in Vidil, another one of our big winners through the semi-final weekend last weekend. Casper Prism, they were not too far off from one of our early exchanges kind of disengaging on out. Snipe shot is going to go through. Casper's shield's going to get dropped. Vidil Reason might have heard that one into the distance. They're going to try to move in. First cover is going to be easy. Vidil just immediately melts his opponent, but him himself dropped down to just 20 HP, but that's not too much for Reason and him to overcome. They have heals, they have shields, and now they have a 2v1.
Vidil taking the time to heal up, even though they do have the edge on this engagement. They want to make sure both players get healed up before even taking the 2v1. They can see now Wall Replace is coming through, but they're almost waiting for that perfect moment to strike. As now Resin continues breaking through. The opponent is feeling nervous. Grapple Blade made or put up to good use now, and it looks like Prism's gonna get out of there.
Yeah, so that loot that they were able to gather, you can see them changing it around, knowing their roles as well, giving on over that purple hammer pump on over to each other, making sure that they have enough. But this is a fight I feel like we've been seeing all weekend long. Kiro and Kaduo versus Vico and Pink for that forecast tower. You see full control all over to Vico and Pink in terms of the card, but being able to use it's a whole nother story. They got to go through Kiro and Kaduo to make that a possibility.
Deja vu is what I'm feeling from this duel. We've seen it time and time again. Kiro Kaduo going up against Pink and Vico for this forecast tower. We know how impactful it can be for the rest of the match, showing those upcoming zones before they appear. It's important. It's part of their game plan to secure it, but it also opens up that extra risk, Jacob, where you kind of have to take that back and forth engagement. And with one team turtled up around the forecast tower, the other one up above, they don't want to waste time here.
Yeah, that's perfect wording. They don't want to waste time. They had 8 materials on one of the 2 players there. They have to disengage. They have the cards. They don't have to worry about the forecast tower going on over to somebody else. So they're just going to farm off. Hopefully that team does disengage. That way they can get the free forecast tower. But we'll see how that one goes with how much of a hard-fought battle it's been all weekend long. Verstash, Malibuca, not too far from Fencing Fields, where they claim the majority of that loot, but they get paused here as Verstash takes a huge snipe from the third party.
Fencing Fields, triple contested. It's not a easy situation to get out of. And look at this, Jacob. The forecast tower engagement. Veno Tayson are going to be the third party. The extra duo that says we want a piece of that action, forcing now both duos to kind of walk away from it. I believe it was Pink and Vico who had that card, so I don't think anybody has secured it yet.
Yeah, not just yet. They're not going to be able to. Pink and Vico ran away. They disengaged. Kiro and Kudo doing the same thing. Veno and Tayson, probably from Grand Glacier, saw that it was still up, wanted to see what all the noise was about. With no commotion going on, they're just going to continue moving forward in towards the zone. It's not necessarily a part of their game plan every single time, but it's definitely something that they want to get curious about and see if they can gather it. And it does look like Kiro and Kudo are just going to kind of stay back along with Pink and Vico. That one could get dangerous as soon as the zone continues to move forward.
Taking a look now at Cammy and Seti, who are tied for the most victory royales in the qualifiers with Vico and Pink. And you know why. This duo screams consistency. They had some rough patches in the semis to make it here. But now it's game day, Jacob. Grand finals, 2 days of competition. And they're going to choose to stay in the zone and fish up a little bit with those shield breaker EMPs.
Yeah, not too strange from their game plan. And I will say from Seti and Cammy, they're more of our prime time players in this lobby. During the qualifiers, I expected them to get a VR, but it was consistency through and through for Seti and Cammy. Not too strange from what we've seen them, especially not only in the Invitational, but the Global Championship run as well. They know exactly how to play in these high-pressure situations. It's like Yanis and Flixie. Yanis, expert in his own, multiple FNCS championship, trying to get Flixie as first. And this is the team in EU that has been on fire recently. You heard the analysts break it down. They won the most recent Duo Cash Cup. And I got to ask you, are you a believer in curses? Do you think it's kind of out the window this time around?
Look, it's been a saying for a long time in Fortnite competitive history. You don't want to get first place in that Cash Cup. But I mean, they broke it down on the desk in terms of numbers. There is a good possibility. What I'm more curious about here for Yanis and Flixie is I believe they were contested by Robin and Medax, but no elims on the board. I also don't know where their opponents have went to. And if they haven't gotten any damage or any tags, they're incredibly healthy in terms of materials, ammunition, and their loadout for the rest of the match. But with the zone pulling further from the drop spot, they are going to have to get on that surge route.
Yeah, and just before we kind of switch, I saw Forecast Tower still up for grabs. Got to imagine Pink and Vico making it a part of their game plan to loot some HP heals. So that way, when they do overstay, they're welcome in the zone. It's not going to be too damaging to them. And you see the threshold numbers this time around. It's updated Storm Surge here in this FNCS. And if you guys don't know what Storm Surge is, it's a mechanic built into the game to force action within one another. And those on the left are going to be the zones. On the right is the remaining players before Storm Surge turns off. So if it's above that player count, Storm Surge will activate. You see in Zone 3, it requires 90 remaining players. And since we're at 75, we'll not get Storm Surge up until about Zone 4, maybe Zone 5.
And although there are 24 players competing in their first ever FNCS finals, there's also some of the most experienced veterans in Fortnite competitive competing here today who know exactly how to play around these difficult Storm Surge lobbies. You can see the paths some of them have already, basing up on top of ridges, hills, high elevated areas to get those tags on the players that are rotating through. But if you're on the edge of the zone, depending on where it closed, how far it is from your drop spot, it might be much more difficult.
And just looking at Pleasant Piazza being in the zone, you know, I drop a Nebs. They made a whole rotation from the east all the way around the south to the west side where they're positioned at now. Depending on how many teams actually stayed there, which is not super contested like we have seen on some other regions. So I would think Storm Surge is a little bit of a worry for them. But with the elevation that they have, and I think their position overall, it's not going to be too hard for them to gather it, as long as they don't wait for Storm Surge to actually activate and force themselves to go in.
Looking back, King and Phaser potentially could make history this weekend, coming from the Brazilian region, competing on EU, and in the first FNCS they do so, making it to the grand finals. We did see that they're contested, but in game one they have come out on top. So they are definitely starting off strong. And look at this, Jacob. 3 separate duos all at the same time going for Rift Island.
Yeah, even though it doesn't grant you points, there's just so much loot to gather up there. The elevation, the heals, it's just a huge resurgence to your game plan. And somehow Venno is going to be the one on top of the mountain. Tayson trying to farm up, but he's just like all-seeing eye, gathering information for him and Tayson. And as soon as they don't like the position, they're going back to farming up. A lot of players here stuck now on top of Rift Island have to make that decision. Do they actually want to contest the point or just find their position at the top and try to shoot around?
I mean, there's so many objectives each of these duos could have. They might just want to get to a position where there's a lot of duos around them so they can get that damage, get those tags. They might just want the loot from the flag. They might just want to be in a good position where they have that option to rotate when zone does pull further. Under the Rift Island, there are rifts that appear that a lot of duos will be boxing up on. There's launch pads on the Rift Island that you can use to rotate. There's so many factors, so many benefits that you can get from this location. But for right now, it's all about damage.
Yeah, and I can see the Forecast Tower card just left there on the ground. Pink and Vico, I really don't think they had a chance to actually grab the Forecast. With Kiro and Kudo contesting it, Venno and Tayson making their way, it's almost one of those things in the game that's very, very useful that goes to the wayside. Pink is going to go ahead and lead that charge. No shields on to Vico really to follow up, but I imagine they're just holding their spot here, grabbing 2 different boxes for now, so that way they can try to get 2 different angles on any teams rotating on this part of the zone.
Now that the forecast section of the match has ended, it's more about the combat catches now. That extra loot that you find throughout the map, the engagements that arise from it. But I believe Pink and Vico are even taking shots at a solo there. He has disengaged now, but in 2 separate boxes, they do have more vision. There's 20 seconds until 4th zone closes. So we'll have to see here what their game plan is.
Yeah, just looking around, looking in the mini-map. Not too many full teams on this side of the map. 4 total out of 38. Maybe even a 5th if you look a little bit more down towards the south. A couple solos scattered in and out of that as well. Have to be very, very careful when you're stacked up on the congested side of zone as a solo. As you jump on board, Vaniac and Sined, one of our early teams to qualify in day one of the FNCS semifinals. And this season overall, I don't know where they're finding the eliminations. I don't know how they're grabbing the material, but it's usually late into the game. They start to build a massive sky base due to a refresh that they're able to find at the perfect time. And it's usually them consistently there. But now that we have a lot of our top dogs here in a singular lobby, I want to see if they're going to take that same risk to try to go ahead and build such a massive sky base like they've done in the past.
There is a bit of materials down below that they can refarm up on, even making use of the smart pistol to lock onto their opponents as they're up above. Looking Rift Island now. Tace and Veno running lower and lower on HP. Gonna be forced to use heals on the rotate here.
Scraps left behind in the capture point. And they have the Flowberry Fizz, so even though it is in this zone, Takata, Rift Island, the zone pulls so far away from it more times than not. Not every time, but more times than not. Flowberry Fizz Launchpad is going to allow Venom and Tayson to fly so high and so far into the zone. They can see every player that's currently positioned in and out of it, so they can find themselves the perfect spot to try to get in. Granted, hopefully they don't get sniped or taken down along the way, because then that'll be the only wrench in the gameplay.
Even after going to Rift Island and taking shots back and forth with the duos contesting it, they're just 44 above the current threshold as they quickly decide it's going to be Sined and Vaniac's box that they want to get into. Straight into the action as Veno gets a wall replace, unable to connect his first pump shot. Now, the danger of the surrounding duos is the shots and the pressure is going to come in.
Such high risk, high reward play very, very early for Veno and Tayson. But seeing as they are 44 above the threshold instead of below, they're going to box themselves up as a just-in-case, a plan B, while they try to look for shots elsewhere. It does have the Thunderburst, does have the Reaper Sniper. Can definitely pick up a ton of damage in the blink of an eye. Tayson spotting a player out. Veno's going to try to land a shot. Doesn't click through, and you can see they're falling below that damage threshold, and you see their plan B behind them. Tayson's looking at it, seeing when do they go versus when do they continue to do this.
Now drop down to 31 above. As the pressure continues, so does the risk. Tayson now desperately looking at multiple angles. Where's that option? Where's that opportunity going to open up? Is it going to be another duo peeking who needs damage? But you got to be careful. You see that reflection from the sniper scope. It's terrifying, especially if it connects onto you. But at the same time, if you can just land one big shot, it could be enough, as now they've decided it might be time to get towards the box fights. One pump shot could be all it takes, as Tayson is going to be on the receiving end.
Yeah, nice counter shot coming out from Vaniac to deal a huge amount of damage. Sined's got to be careful, though. You can't deal too much damage to those builds to break it down, just like the counterparts. Piece control is going to be tricky on the other side, but now they are below. Veno, Tayson continuously falling, stalling themselves out. Now they're being forced here by Storm Surge to try to interact, but Tayson landing a couple shots through the builds, going to climb them up that Storm Surge threshold, but still not enough to be over. In about 30 seconds, this will activate and put them in a tougher spot than they are right now.
Big pots being dropped, being split between the duo as they continue to just look at the box fight. But in the meantime, there's so many duos now rotating in their surroundings down below. You can see Tayson heard a bit of the action. You can see it's actually Bevy's Pablo just in front of their box here, as they've maybe decided they don't want to continue the box fight with the players close. Double pickaxe comes through directly into the box. This is all or nothing.
Somehow Tayson was able to squeak in. He gets the knock. It's going to be a trade, though. Veno's down. Bevy's going to be the sacrifice on the other side. Nobody really taking note of this fight just yet. Pablo's trying to heal up. Tayson's trying to give himself more space. There is a chance he can get Veno back, but he has to build himself space, and he's doing the perfect plays to give himself a chance back into this game. But Vaniac and Ed, they hear noise going down, and they focus the other solo out. So Veno, Tayson, I think this is going to be successful, and another chance into this game.
Huge success. Veno did get knocked down, but all they wanted was that damage. And they got the damage without even losing a player, as now they do have the shields to recuperate what was lost during the engagement. I believe they're a little over 250 above and can focus a bit more now on positioning, as Malibuka Merstash also in a critical situation. They do have the medallion, which is going to help them get up to 50 shield, but at the same time, you only have so much HP, you only have so much shields, but 543 above the Storm Surge threshold. This is very big.
Yep, as Great to see Mustache playing along in this one. Malibuca, the historic run just to qualify into this stage of the event. Multiple reboots and a huge VR. You've seen what Storm Surge is doing to so many players around the lobby. Pixel forced to try to go in, low on Surge. Vidil makes easy work of that one, picks up the second elimination of the game for himself. 2 total for the team, and now they're following in tandem along with Malibuca or Mustache. And with that Flowberry Fizz, they're gonna pass them up, and this is their chance to get to the zone and then begin to worry about that Surge.
Especially if they're able to get here first. They will have the option to look back on all the duos that are rotating through, but you want to get a bit elevated for that. As we can see, Kiduo lost his duo partner. No floppers left. 33 HP, ticking quicker and quicker. As now just 10 left. Connects a couple shots, but he would need a blessing to get out of this situation.
Yeah, Small Fry just wasn't enough to gain the HP and go to zone, but Taze and Veno back where we've seen him before in yet another fight, but this time around 200 above the damage threshold. They're gonna have more control over their game from here on out. With 41 players, 23 teams still left alive. Even though they're a full duo, there's 5 solos running around this lobby trying to collect those solo points.
They were put into panic from Storm Surge. They were forced to go all in. And although they lost a lot of their HP, they are now healthy enough inside of the zone and have a chance to make it to the end game. But for Putrick, on the other hand, he did lose his duo partner during the hunt. Now 82 below, forced to take those shots and look for that damage as players start rotating through. It's all duos in the surrounding area. Putrick needs a miracle.
Yeah, he's trying to go ahead and rotate while getting the shots, but hasn't been successful so far. Storm Surge, even a couple shots ticking in, and all the damage has been done. He gets sent back to the lobby here in game 1. Zone, it's moving over the mountain, and this is what we saw last weekend. If you're not prepared for these roller coaster of zones, it will be disastrous to your builds, to your material, and your overall game plan. You can see Queasy left as a solo. I will say, luckily for him, he does have those med kits and some builds to work with, so this is the stage when the zones begin to move, he has a chance to stagger himself to try to pick up points or an elimination.
9th zone will be appearing shortly. The first moving zone of the match is Queasy. Opponents, danger, jumping right into his box, left at 15 HP. He has 2 medkits to recuperate it, but he needs to get out of this situation as the pressure does not slow down.
Yeah, the Thunderburst just doing so much damage. Even the Nemesis being in on those builds, but 15 HP. Queasy just trying to get out, but there's still pressure for so many duos, so many angles. Top 19 is where Queasy and Thomas will go down in game 1. Hopefully that motivates him to keep going. Noah, Aqua, they're going to be the first team here on the high ground. Can they hold on to it? Because we see 9th zone for some. It might be too early because we know there's a duo or even a solo at the low ground planning to try to overtake this at the perfect moment.
We know how much Aqua likes to play on the high ground with 3 elims already. Holding it from the first zone can be a risky move, but at the same time, first match grand finals, so many resources have been used from these duos just trying to get enough damage and make it into zone. It could be enough for them to hold on to it. Resin now, huge impact there, recuperating the materials. 2 elims on the board total, but you can see they need to stay together on this rotate.
Yeah, it wasn't a ton, but those siphon mats are getting him from point A to point B, allowing him to pop the big pot, get his shields back. Cammy by himself, but luckily for them, out of the duo, he's the one that typically does carry the HP heals. Top 16, still got more points to gather and doing a good job of staying ahead of the game. Sees the zone, going up the mountain. He's trying to beat every team there as Pink and Vico went down to Pablo, who lost his teammate Bevies early on in this game.
Yanis, Flixie, favorites for today's competition as they go ahead with the grapple blade, making sure to stay together, but you gotta be careful. It is Cammy close by. Do they know that it's a solo as they continue to tarp ahead of zone?
Yeah, Yanis Flixie trying to make their way in from Cash Cup first place to first game of the FNCS, willing to break that curse and make it so, but Vidil gets down along the way. Reason stuck by himself, and he's doing a fantastic job moving through these builds, almost unseen.
Last medkit now being put to good use, seeing if he can find a rotate here. He is going to be on the backside, so we'll have more options on how to rotate in. Malibuca in a similar situation. No medkit, though. No Flowberry Fizz. He has that momentum boost from popping it, but it's only going to last so long. Is now Vanyak, Sined, they're going for height.
This is their chance, but they immediately get stuffed and shut down. He even knocked as Noah and Aqua. They're able to solidify it and keep a hold of that high ground for now. But he runs into Pablo, but same song, different dance. He goes ahead and gets another elimination, bringing their total of 6.
Another one on the books as Malibuka goes down as well. Flixie now left as a solo. He is going to be forced to pop a medkit in zone.
This is his chance, though. Placement points for consistency on that leaderboard with his teammate going down. Sined trying to do the same thing as Aqua and Noah on the high ground, putting down an immense amount of pressure. Dioxy and Cade, 7 eliminations. They're looking like some of the most healthy team in this lobby outside of the high ground.
11 players up, 8 duos. Noah does not have any medkits in his inventory. Does Aqua have some if they want to play the heal off? But it looks like they might not even have to. So much pressure is being put on second height on the players. Waterfalling down this mountain as the chaos now below is increasing.
Arian down there by himself as well. The probably one's putting the pressure on Dioxy and Cade. He's going to be able to go ahead and make more space so that way he has more room to work with. Nobody's really taking note. He's that meat in the middle. Bottom layer, though, now trying to chop it down into the palm of their hands. 3-team FNCS final for game 1. Aqua, Noah, they lose high ground at the worst possible moment. Noah goes down. Cade gets dropped. It's all up to Lowk3yild, who gets another elimination, bringing it down to a 1v1, but he doesn't have heals. It's all up to Aqua. He's going back in with 1 flopper left. He's going to use it, ready to fight it, but he goes down. Lowk3yild takes down Aqua and takes game 1.
Lowk3yild saw from the dirt down below, eliminating the high ground duo. Noah and Aqua held it throughout first moving zone all the way to the last moments, even with floppers in the inventory, but they were unable to connect those impactful shots and went down to Saw and his duo partner in those last moments.
Yeah, they stayed on that ultimate low ground every single time. Even with those refresh, the extra mats they were able to get, they just stayed ahead. And that elimination on the Flixie allowed them to build that cone tarp, so that way they're able to fight this with Noah going down back of zone. Even with a trade, the edit with the cone, the frenzy shotgun, they just played that almost flawlessly to take game 1.
Aryan, Lowk3yild, you know they are feeling happy now with that motivation from the first game, but this isn't a sprint, Jacob. It's a marathon. This is just the beginning of the EU Grand Finals.
Yep, and with that said, game 1 is over. Let's throw it on over to Des to see what they think about the start of FNCS.